Okay, are we ready to get started? Good evening.
That would be you guys.
Read it every day.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Okay. I believe you're here.
Definitely here.
No mistake. Mr. Brown?
No mess with me.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Here.
Mrs. Galbraith? Here. Mrs. Gasparo?
Here.
Mr. Toure?
Here.
And Secretary's eye. Dr. Hall, are you here?
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Woo! All right. I should have gave her the mic. Of the United States of America. Okay, welcome to our January board meeting. For this month, for good news, we have Balmoral Elementary here with us. I'm assuming that's who these wonderful little people are. So I'd like to welcome Jantel Perkins to the podium. Sure.
Oh, you're going to turn that on vibrate.
Yeah. I got Nick calling me on. You calling me, Nick?
You know if that mic was on?
Which one?
On the podium.
Yeah, I powered both on.
On behalf of Balmoral, Mrs. Van Kyken and I would like to thank the Board of Education, Superintendent Cunningham, District Office Administration, and all of our families and staff who are coming out this evening to let us give our good news report. Our report is based on the work behind our winning district motto, Unity Begins With You. Our report is based on what we do every day at Balmoral. We thank the community and the board for the recognition and accolades we have received. We also want to thank all the schools and scholars for the work that went into understanding the democratic process. We applaud all scholars in the district for their work. As educators, we are charged with the task of developing and growing our scholars academically, socially, and emotionally. The motto that we developed comes from a place where our scholars' lives at Balmoral are not only about being safe, respectful, and responsible, but simply being kind. One of our mottos at school is that we are bulldogs, not bullies. So, in honor of our daily work, in honor of our work with Mix It Up Day and Night, our Night of Leadership, and with this week being National No Name Calling Week, we present our scholars.
only one call away. I'll be there to save the day. Superman got nothing on me. I'm only one call away. Call me, baby, if you need a friend. I just want to give you love. Come on, come on, come on. Reach out to you, so take a chance. No matter where you go, no, you're not alone. I'm only one call away. I'll be there to save the day. Superman got nothing on me. I'm only one call away. Come on me and don't forget. I just wanna set free. Come on, come on, come on. You know me, make it anywhere. For now, we can stay for a while. Cause you know, I just wanna see it's now. No matter where you go, no, you're not alone. I'm only one call away. I'll be there to save the day. Superman got nothing on me. I'm only one call away. And when you're weak, I'll be strong. I'm gonna keep holding on. Now don't you worry, won't be long, darling. When you feel like hope is gone, just run into my arms. I'm only one call away. I'll be there to save the day. Superman got a run, then on me. I'm only one. I'm only one call away. I'll be there to save the day. Superman got nothing on me. I'm only one call away. I'm only one call away.
And so that was just a little snippet of our Mix It Up night that we attached to Mix It Up Day this year. And that would not have been possible without Mrs. Robinson. So can we get another round of applause, Mrs. Robinson? Thank you for all of the hard work that went into Mix It Up night this year. And we'd also like to thank you for our Balmoral staff, our families, parents, and most importantly, my scholars. Thank you so very much for being you, the very best role models that we could have asked for. So thank you, scholars.
Gary said thanks.
Oh. Hey, so did they tell you over at AC, took care of everything, but those big tables are in the room? Yes. How did you move out of the room? Well, they didn't do it. You stuck back in the cafeteria. I like putting it down.
Or did they? Boy, they kind of did something like that a couple of years back, right? When they were outside. Yeah. Excellent.
Salem. See you later. Salem.
Can't see.
I know they are exiting right now, but I did want to give the board members opportunity to have any comments regarding our scholars from Balmoral.
Well, I just want to first say thank you. Where's the principal? Jantel? Is she out there? Jantel. She's gone. One call away, can she come back? No. I would like her to come back and get the accolades from the board. But, you know, it's the kids that will listen, and I truly believe that if we call them, they will come. So thank you. Those kids were magnificent. That's the first time I heard that song. And keep doing what you're doing, Principal. We just wanted you to hear the accolades coming from the board, at least from me, I'm sure others. But good job. You have done a tremendous job as the principal and a leader of Balmoral School. So keep up the good work with our future leaders, okay? Thank you. Oh, I'm not the only one, I'm sure. Oh, okay, okay.
Jennifer.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say congratulations and great job. I've always been made to feel very welcome when I come to Balmoral, and the students have a lot to do with that and the role models that they have. So thank you very much. I look forward to my next visit.
I certainly,
Are we going around now? They keep pointing this way and I don't know what's going on. Go ahead.
okay, just wanted to say again, we congratulate you guys for a job easily well done as usual. And certainly I always tell you, both Mrs. Van Kyken, and I said it right again, just that what you speak into the lives of those young people, calling them scholars, to me is always just been so phenomenal with the synonymous rather with the success ratios that you guys have at the school. And I just encourage you to keep on keeping on, keep doing what you're doing. Good job.
Mr. Anderson.
Visiting Balmoral on the day of leadership when they were lobbying for their motto and talking about how they arrived at that decision is one of the highlights of my short time on this board. So I really love the atmosphere there at Balmoral too, and I think it's a really special place, as are all of the schools in the district. But it really is, we saw it tonight, just, you know, what an exceptional sense of community you've created there. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. You did a sensational job, and I'll tell the story for the 48th time. Balmoral always has a warm spot in my heart because a teacher that used to teach there turned around one of my sons, who I'll leave nameless, from a child that was struggling into a successful, productive adult. And there'll always be a warm spot in my heart for Miss Rose Jenna, a lady that used to work there, and God bless her wherever she's at. Thank you, guys.
I would like to reiterate everything that's been said. Also, thank you for breakfast this morning. Enjoyed my time with the staff and being able to see them again. I always look forward to that in January. So it would be nice if we could do that every month, but I know we can't. And thank you for all you do. I mean, you do open your arms to us. The children open their arms. It's a great environment, and just keep doing what you're doing because it sure is working.
And I agree with my colleagues. First of all, congratulations once again on winning the district motto. Unity starts with you. And I think that that motto encompasses a lot of what we desire to achieve in the school district, and being a unified school district. It's in our name. So thank you for that. And also in the presentation, I heard you say that one of the things that you guys push is to be safe, respectful, and responsible. And I think that that's an awesome thing to push, those three things. And I think that we all can learn from that, even as adults. And I believe that what you're doing at Balmoral and what a lot of, all of our schools are doing, it's phenomenal in that we're giving our kids the opportunity to think past what they're used to thinking and pushing in a lot of the programs that we're bringing in. And I know that you guys are doing that in such an excellent way. Thank you all again for coming this evening.
And hopefully, last but not least, I just want to say we're so blessed to have an award-winning school district that leads our community, in schools like yours, with staffs like yours, with students that just love to drink up all that good stuff that you're giving them. We just so appreciate what you're doing for us. Not even talking about the winning. Every time we look up and we come to visit you, you warm our hearts, and we know you treat our children well. Thank you, and keep going.
And thank you guys for being the school that presented in January. I know how that can be, so thank you. You're welcome. Next, we have public comment. No Mary Bragg concerning the intermodal development, I believe in Crete.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Good evening.
On behalf of the Crete Monee Education Association, we just saw an awesome presentation from our young ladies and young gentlemen over at Balmoral Elementary. With the development of the intermodal across the street from that building, I just want the board to really be focused and make sure that they're working with Crete and the developer on making sure that our students and that learning environment is protected. These scholars did an awesome job, and I would hate for their educational environment to be impacted by that massive development being put in across the street from their building. The noise pollution, the air pollution, the possible water pollution. These students deserve the best learning environment possible. And I just want to make sure that we, the board, and the community are all working to make sure that we protect that environment for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Is everyone familiar with that project? Okay. Okay, at this time, is board updates. Do we have any board updates? I do have a few. Just wanted to make the board aware of a few things coming from NSBA. NSBA will be hosting its equity symposium at the end of this month. I attended this symposium last summer, and it was very informative, and it focuses on issues with equity within our schools. Some of the workshop and presentation topics include how school boards can engage in the process of racial equity policy development, how poverty can impact student engagement in the classroom, how to create an equity-focused district, and assessing whether your school district has engaged in resegregation by way of district practices. The Equity Symposium will be followed by the Advocacy Institute, which will address education legislation issues in federal government, and this includes guest speakers who are members of Congress. And they will be discussing the Every Student Succeeds Act, as well as some of the hot topics in education from the federal level. I know that there's a push for the federal government to not be as involved with education and to allow the states to have more control over education dollars. And there's also a push to consider school choice. I also wanted to inform you all, as you know, I am a member of NSBA's National Black Council. I sit on that board, and some of the things that we've been discussing are, one of the things I should say right now is the recent presidential election and how the new administration may impact the underrepresented populations. Also, the NSBA has a concern with the recommended Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. I said that right. Basically because she has had a history of not being a proponent of public education. She's out of Michigan. She's a proponent for school choice, school vouchers, and charter schools, all of which take money from our public schools. And so NSBA is, of course, concerned with that because they push public schools, of course, and have a public schools campaign. NSBA has put out its concern to the members of Congress, and they are looking to be putting out to us, the members of NSBA, to join in on the concern that they have expressed to Congress. They will also be pushing at the Advocacy Institute properly funded education and a properly funded education budget. Another thing that we've been discussing is a concept called community schools. These are schools that create partnerships with local businesses and organizations to help students and families. So for instance, if we have a mental health facility in our community and we have students or families that are in need of those services, we would make a partnership with that facility for our students or families to be able to engage in their services for a reduced or free amount. And that's it.
Do you have the dates on that conference coming up at the end of the month?
It is, I believe it starts the 28th of January.
And where is that located?
No, it's in Washington, D.C. The Equity Symposium is January 28th, and the Advocacy Institute starts January 29th, I believe, through the 31st. And they actually, I believe it's the last day, they actually go and visit Capitol Hill as members of NSBA, and they talk with our elected officials there. And to be honest, my opinion, that's the way to get things changed, because in my opinion, our state has a long way to go when it comes to doing what needs to be done for our students in education.
This symposium, this is about diversity. Do you know if any of the Congress, is it going to be a diverse group of Congress people there from both sides of the aisle speaking at this conference? Do you know?
When I went last year, they typically invited Congress persons that were impactful with ESSA or any of the educational legislation, or if they were had some type of influence in legislation. When you say diverse, I'm not sure, you mean like?
Well, we're going to have Republicans and Democrats there to both speak, so.
Oh, yeah, it just depends on who is associated with whatever topics is there. It's a nonpartisan type thing. It's whoever was associated with it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Now we have administrative updates.
Well, I'm happy to be able to report that our school technology revolving loan program was approved. And our request for $269,250 is coming towards us once we sign our promissory note. I thank the Board of Education for allowing us to put in for this. It is focused for our 2 years on 9th through 12th graders, and what it's going to do is enable us to get more technology in the hands of our students during the school day. We look forward to presenting on this, on what we've going to plan to use with this money and how it's going to improve the education of our students. Thank you.
Could you?
Oh, sure. Also, while we're here, a quick administrative update on our incident at Balmoral today. We had Balmoral receive some threats, and we called the police. The police got to our school. We went under lockdown, and our police did an excellent job of investigating, finding out where this came from, and they got back to us to let us know that this was a phone call prank. They will be handling it from here. I thank Balmoral and the district office staff for their work, for ensuring that our students were safe at all times, and getting the note and information out to the public as quickly as possible so that we knew that all of our students were safe. Mr. Neal was actually over there today working with the principal, making sure that everything went smoothly, and I just appreciate all of them who were involved today.
Does, excuse me, sir, does the current phone system that we have the technology to record where these calls are coming from, to record the number of.
Actually, we gave the number to the police, and that's how they were able to chase it down.
They do have that technology?
Yes, sir.
And that we've already found the people who are responsible?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I didn't hear that part. Thank you.
I do have a question. Superintendent Cunningham, can you just kind of bring the board back up to speed about this school technology? Hello.
There you go.
Can you hear me now? I got a defective mic
Yeah.
here. Dr. Cunningham, can you just bring the board back up to speed regarding the technology revolving loan? How long is that loan for? What is the interest rate, to your knowledge? What's going on with that?
I would ask for help for that, for each one of the interest rates. We kind of sent that to you earlier, and you guys approved us going. Can you give us a little more information on that, Laura?
Sure. The Illinois Technology Loan Program is, it occurs annually or once every 2 years. It's for certain grade level bands. So the one we applied for was for grades 9 through 12. It's a 3-year loan at 2%.
Okay, so that was easy.
Thank you. Okay, our consent agenda approval. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Brown.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Galbraith. Dr. Cunningham?
Superintendent, A1, regular meeting minutes for December 20th, 2016. A2, committee of the whole meeting minutes of January 10th, 2017. A3, review closed session meeting minutes for July 2014 through June 2016. B, business. B1, business, approve accounts payable. B2, approve payroll. B3, approve the Heart That Smiles Mobile Dental Agreement. C, donations. C1, acknowledgements of thanks and donations.
Okay, any questions?
I have some questions. As usual, I had a question that I asked earlier and I got my answer to it. So I appreciate Dr. Cunningham and Dr. Williams getting back to me on that. One thing that I was asked by a member of the public was why the bills are not on board book anymore for the public to see. I mean, we're supposed to be transparent and they're not on there.
Agreed. Didn't know that we had taken the bills off. Let me look into that and get a report back to the Board of Education. We don't have any reason that we would take them off.
Yeah, because somebody questioned it and said that they've always been able to see them before, but starting late last year, they're not published anymore. So I noticed a couple of older bills on the list dating back to August and September. And I was wondering why we're so late in paying some bills. I mean, was that they were turned in on time or what's?
I'd be happy to look into the specific bills that you're referencing, because I'd have to look at when they were received by the business office, when they were approved by the department that approved them. So I'd have to do individual research on that.
I would have had a list for you ahead of time because the agenda was a delay. I didn't get a chance to look at everything, but I mean, I know there was like Lansing Sports Shop, Scholastic, Waltz, a couple of them were dating back to August or September, so.
I can tell you that we did receive literally a stack of Waltz bills that did not have legible signatures, and basically my assistant has been trying to track down who authorized the purchases, but Waltz is the only one out of that list that I can tell you. I know we were working on some bills that they sent over. They didn't know who approved it. There's a signature that you can't, that's not legible, so it's basically a research project to find out where that bill is, and it was.
Because I know I've asked before about some bills that were a little bit older. So from the lists that we get from the accounts payable reports, this only shows the items that you're presenting to us for approval. Is there a way to find out what bills are in process? Maybe things that they have either been denied because maybe you couldn't see a signature? Because of course, there's a lot of rumors going around that we're not paying our bills. So I'm just trying to make sure that we can put an end to that. Like I'm hearing out on the streets that, you know, oh, this caterer wasn't paid, or we can't buy uniforms from this company because, you know, we were late in paying. So I just want to make sure that we can put an end to that by just putting it all out there and having it be transparent and say, you know, this is what's going on. Like right now, I have students that are upset because they say they're not going to be able to go to Prairie State because, you know, we're not paying the bills. I'm like, well, there's nothing here. So how can we pay a bill if it's not there? So.
Well, I don't know. You have to, first of all, be careful. That's two different issues. So if you're hearing that we're not paying something.
Well, as I'm saying, it's not here, so that's all.
But what you have to see on here is what the board needs to approve. We wouldn't see what you're asking.
Right, that's why I'm going to say, is there some way we can find out what's in process still as part of our board packet, or?
I think you should ask specifically if you know of specific bills that aren't being paid. Specifically, what is the situation with the bills, or, you know, whatever.
Well, I'm just saying, I know it's rumor. I know that, and it seems to, there's always somebody that says something's not getting paid, and I can see it on the agenda right there. It's there. So I don't know if there's a.
Are you saying that they're saying it's not being paid, but we see it on here?
Right. So.
Okay, well, I think that would just be, if it's here, it's being paid. I don't think we have people in a business office.
Well, but again, it probably goes back to the fact that they can't see the bills list, so.
Well, that's an easy fix. If the bills were set to only be visible to the board, that's an easy fix. I do know that there was a conversation about some of the information as relates to payroll. There might be personal information on there that we might not want to the public. For example, if someone is having a deduction taken for child support, the payroll statement that were provided several months ago provided a level of detail that I wasn't comfortable sharing with the public. And that may have been the time where we turned off the bills. That's an easy fix, I believe, Terry, that we can definitely take care of as we move forward. As it relates to bills that are in transit, there are hundreds of bills in our purchase requisition system that we're waiting on the actual invoices for. So I don't know that there's an efficient way to provide you with a list of everything that is in transit.
Okay, so this posting date here, it says check date, that's today's date.
Yes.
How do we tell from this report what the cutoff was as far as bills through Monday the 16th are included on here? Is that how do we see that?
I can tell you what the process is. All of the bills must be submitted to the business office by the end of the month to be paid at the next month's board meeting.
Okay, so then these bills would be anything received by your office and approved through December 30th.
These bills should include everything that was submitted to my office, properly coded and approved prior to being submitted to my office by the end of the month.
Okay, so that helps.
Yes.
Then a lot of times if people say something's not paid, it probably was received January 1st.
It might have been received late, or it might have been received without a signature and it had to go back. There are several different scenarios in which they might have sent it to the business office and it might not have been paid according to that schedule. But
and bills can go to different places, right? So like you can get some bills there, but maybe a bill might go to a school, so the school has to code it.
yes.
And then there might be a delay there.
Yes,
Is
and
that
there
how
might,
that works?
and there might be bills that must be approved by a school. They come to central office first, so
have
then
to
they're
be
sent
sent
back. I'm
over.
sorry, so they're
Okay.
sent back to the school.
Okay.
Then they come back to district, and we've had a holiday in there, so there may be, extenuating circumstances as well. We do stamp, time-dated stamp bills when we receive them officially approved in our office, and there have been times where there's bills that say that someone signed off the building on it a month ago, but by the time they've actually coded it properly and sent it to my office, it might be a month later. And so we've started to timestamp everything to ensure that this is when we received it, therefore this is when it was paid. And I can't speak to, especially at the high school, because there's so many different departments that things may have to go through. It may go to the wrong department. Then it may need to go to athletics and get signed off on before it goes to Dr. Harden. So
we need to try to tighten that. timing.
Can I ask you a question?
Thank you.
Do the individual principals in these schools have a credit card? You know, say we go over to Del Santos and we buy some sausage and roast beef. They don't have a credit card. They can go over there and buy a $300 purchase.
No.
They have to go through a PO system, and then the local vendor, small business has to wait maybe 45 days, 60 days to get paid. I mean, why don't we have a credit card for these people to use?
The principals do not have credit cards. I should say most of the principals do not have credit cards as of yet. We are in the process of rolling that out, but the board policy does not allow for large amounts to be purchased on a credit card because basically that's pre-authorization. There's no pre-approval. You just go and purchase whatever you want. So we are very strict on who gets credit cards and what they're able to use them for. But as it stands right now, all of the principals do not have a credit card. They should have a credit card within the next few months, but they do not right now.
What is considered a large amount? I mean, what are waiting for $300 or $400? To me, in a budget of several million, tens of millions, that's not a large amount of money for a local vendor to have to wait a month and a half for payment on, you know, I'm just using him as an example, but we go out and we buy $300 worth of trophies. I mean, this seems like it slows the system down, and there should be trust and confidence in the school leadership at the principal level to make honest purchases that you're going to get the bill anyway. You know, it's going to come to your central office. Why couldn't, you know, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me that these small things have to bog your office down when there's so much more that is large amounts of money that you can consume your time with, you know. Doesn't seem efficient, I guess is the word I'm searching for.
And Mr. Teray, I agree. And it even makes me think of, I was just telling the superintendent, you know, we just did this procedure where we had someone review our personnel, our salary schedule, all of that, because we wanted to tighten that up. And I think this is another area we need to tighten up, because it makes me think of, I know that some people, you know, since I've been on this board, heard of, you know, teachers or coaches having to come out of their pockets, get reimbursed. I mean, just different types of principals or whoever. We need to look at what we have going on, what we need to have going on. I've heard that certain, you know, coaches have personal accounts because they feel like they can't trust the business department to go through the procedure in a timely fashion, and they have things, they're on schedules or whatever. I've heard this for years, and I know we've started trying to tighten up some of the procedures, but I don't know that we're doing a great job at that. So if you have people in the public saying, we haven't gotten paid, I don't know if you remember Mrs. Sanders years back when there was the issues with the yearbooks. We couldn't, that bill hasn't been paid for, I don't even remember how long. It was, you know, so it is an issue. It's come up. And I'm not referring to the ones that we actually see on the ledgers, but there's some great areas I believe that needs to be, you know, tightened up. I don't believe in policing, you know, things to death, but I do believe that we need to tighten up our procedures. We don't want our principals to feel like they don't have the leniency that they need, but at the same time, I do understand we need to stand guard over what's being spent. So we need to figure out what needs to be tightened up. And well, I should be saying that to the superintendent, I'm sorry.
I have a question then, because I thought that's why, I mean, I see both sides, and with all due respect to Mr. Teray, you know, I'm not inclined to be so focused on them being local members of the community who we're shopping with, anybody we're shopping with. we need to maintain some measure of integrity. Now, the other side of this is 4 years ago, we were complaining that people could. Have been times that people have had credit cards in this district, and of course, to Mrs. Gasparo's point earlier, the times that I was receiving information that, oh, you guys either don't pay the bills, people are extra spending, be it cell phones or what have you. I don't think we ought to ever just turn our hands up to saying, well, it's easy for our business partners, because just like you said, Mr. Toure, trust should go both ways. We're certainly, we need to be expeditious in our payment, and they should be able to count that we're going to pay. We're the biggest or the largest employer, and for that matter, company in this particular municipality. I would believe that we should be able to have trust that we're going to pay a Del Santos, Aurelio's, whomever, but I don't think that we should just blanket hand out credit cards, because we sat here while it was plenty of people have been accused with small amounts purchases. So we need to either make sure, in my opinion, people are bonded, and it has nothing to do with trusting individuals. Companies do it all the time. It's my understanding with the Bank of America process, that was one of the oversights I thought that we were using in order to mitigate some of this. There's a process. I use it at work, so I know that that's supposed to help streamline the process and make sure that there is a measure of integrity in the purchases. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. Is it so we're not fully implementing the BMO process, or what is it? Because I noticed you said we still don't have credit cards.
We were piloting it with central office, and it just hasn't been distributed to all of the principals as of yet. But we did make changes to the policy last year. You may recall we changed the policy to ensure that employee reimbursements were occurring on a weekly basis instead of waiting for the board member. So there are vehicles in place to ensure that small reoccurring bills are paid in a shorter time frame if necessary. And to Mr. Gray's point earlier, it's not necessarily about the amount of the purchase so much as what the purchase is for. The majority of purchases are supposed to go through the purchase requisition process as outlined in board policy. Small recurring bills that we receive discounts for in advance for electronic processing and things of that nature, the board has authorized pre-approval of those payments. The credit cards is yet another example of that. And I'll be quite honest with you, the turnaround time for processing a credit card payment is very short, and it requires a lot of actual person-to-person follow-up. So somebody has to call you to make sure that they have all of the itemized receipts so that we can pay the credit card before the credit card bill is due, and that is never in sync with our board schedule. So credit cards may seem like an extreme convenience that would be easy to implement for a majority of our staff. It's actually a much more manual process for paying it in a timely fashion to ensure that we're not incurring interest for those charges.
So what do we do when a business requires prepayment?
It requires planning on the part of our staff to ensure that they are requesting that payment in a timely fashion so that they can receive that payment before we need it.
Okay, so what's timely fashion?
Well, it depends on what it is. So for example,
say they're ordering pizza for a winning, whatever, a class did something they won, and they're gonna order pizza. What's a timely fashion for them to process it and have, I guess, cut a check? Is that what you do then?
Yes, we would cut a check. That would be something that could be processed through the weekly check run. So if they're preparing a week in advance for a meeting, they can request a check, and every Wednesday typically, we process those weekly payments to a maximum of $60,000 a month.
Okay, so there is no spontaneity then? If they decide today that they want to do something tomorrow, it's not going to happen then?
No, it requires planning. Okay. We don't cut checks every day, but you
because
reimburse.
there are plenty of businesses that require prepayment.
Right, right. And I've spoken with the principals about, as part of the zero-based budgeting process, about the need to plan for things in advance to ensure that they have those funds available to them when they need them.
Okay, I just want to make sure so that we were all clear on how that worked if they needed the prepayment, how that procedure was.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm. And of course, if there's in the case of an emergency, I give in a principal my credit card if they need it because they don't have one and there was something that they got to process and they need it today. So, I mean, we're flexible with them, but we want to be sure that we can properly manage that process before we pass those credit cards on to building level administrators.
Well, let me just ask this one last question. So how then do we ensure that businesses in general are paid in a timely fashion? What are we going to do? Because it's a recurring thing that I hear in the community and others have heard in the community. I don't think 30 days is unreasonable. So how are we going to ensure that Joe's business over here gets paid within a 30-day window? How do we ensure that that's going to happen in the future?
I think a large part of it goes back to education and ensuring that the vendors understand our timelines. You may recall, just for example, we had a couple of times where there was special consideration given to one of our capital project providers because they did not submit their bills in a timely fashion and they needed to pay their subcontractors. We told them over and over again, we need the bill by the end of the month. We need the bill by the end of the month. And we still did not receive it, yet there were comments being made that we weren't paying in a timely fashion. So I think that there's a commitment on both sides here. We need to continue to reinforce the schedule and set the expectation, but they also need to understand that they have a responsibility as well. If you're sending a bill to central office for an expense at Balmoral that you know that the principal knows about, then there's going to be a delay.
I don't think that the average person that isn't familiar with working with us is going to know that. So if you have an Aurelio's bill, I don't think Aurelio's is going to know, oh, well, I have to send this to Balmoral, and I know it's going to take me, 30 days to get paid. I don't think that we should put that onus on Aurelio's. I think that, there's a difference between paying a subcontractor, several $100,000 and paying a $50 pizza bill. I think that that's, I don't know. I mean, I understand that you need to have policies and procedures, but I think that maybe we need to set some sort of a dollar. I don't know. It's probably a discussion for our committee, next committee of the whole meeting. I don't know if we need to hash it out here, but.
Yeah, you're talking about, again, we are a governmental entity and there's rules and obligations by the government entity on how we pay. 90 days is not uncommon to get paid, cash conversion cycle. I understand the small dollar amount, and I think that can be driven by the P cards and things of that nature. That should be an easy fix. But like you said, contractors and all that, that's something they know when they deal with we're not unique to this process, Crete Monee.
But we tell all vendors, whenever a vendor calls and they're looking for a bill, I make sure that I inform them of the process because they may not know. Most of them do understand that we're a school district and that we pay bills once a month. Most of them do.
Sure, but it's not uncommon to get paid in 90 days. And I think there's a law out there by the state that says if you do not get paid, I believe it, don't quote me on this, but it's between 90 and 120 days that that particular vendor could charge a government entity interest, but only after the 90 to 120 days, somewhere in that ballpark. So, but again, the small amount, I agree, pizzas and things of that nature, $50, $60, that should be driven down, which I see something on our account payables for the P card. And that was a question I was going to ask, not so much the monetary amount, but how it's verbalized with the nomenclature for the type of item that was paid. So that was a question, if it's okay for me to ask. Everybody's done. So on page 148 of 174, again, it's not critiquing the monetary amount, but I'm just curious to see how we can clear it up a little bit. Where it says Aurelio's Pizza for $32 and $56 on that page.
What page, Mr. Brown?
It says dinner for 9 and I.
What page?
148. 148. And it's under the P card verification report. 148. I mean, it's easy. I figured it out, but it could easily be misinterpreted for what the money was spent for. It says dinner for NI.
Oh.
Okay. And I had to drive up and look up a little bit. And I saw, okay, this is what it's for on page 148. Second to last.
It's the second
last
last
two.
entry.
The last
Page
two
148.
entries. Okay. Why is it getting cut off? Does this have anything to do with Skyward? Is this house? That's why I'm like, okay, that's the answer. Let's approve it tonight then.
Yeah, this is just report formatting, Mr. Brown.
Because I mean, it wasn't abbreviated. I know what it is now, but I had to look at it and say, okay, dinner for the night, was that dinner for Nicholas? For what? I'm not. Somebody could say it's dinner for Kim's son, Nicholas. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's just NI. So is it cut off, or is the report doing that, or what?
It's a Skyward report that probably can just be reformatted. There's so many characters for each space.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good.
No.
It doesn't wrap around?
We can look at that. We can most certainly look at that. But
Okay.
I mean, that's a Skyward.
And just going up in the middle of the page, it has Crete, Monee, Amazon, It has Crete, Monee High School, SPED. Is that SPED? What is that? Special? Oh, just SP for special and ED for ed? Okay, all right.
I can look to see if there's another report that provides more detail.
That's fine. I was just, and I think I scrolled up another page earlier today and saw dinner for night. So, okay, that's all I had.
I got kind of lost in this. Are we going to get a bills pending report in the near future, or that shows us what's pending and how long
I do not believe that there is an efficient way to produce a report of that nature. I believe that report would be hundreds and hundreds of pages, and it would be repetitious each month, because we have purchase requisitions that may be put in July. They may not be closed out until June, because bills may be applied to them. So for example, for food service, we may have a purchase requisition for milk for the year for $70,000. And all year, we'll be applying purchases to that purchase requisition. So I don't know that there's an efficient way to provide you with a report of bills in process.
Mr. Tarek, can I just ask for clarity for both you and myself? Okay, is the original, or maybe, I'm sorry, Jennifer, the original question was, or statement was that from both of you guys, community is saying.
You want to use my broken?
Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm just saying that the two colleagues said that the community is concerned about the transparency of the bills not being paid. So do we need, I'm just trying to clarify, do we need a better process to ensure, well, first, I'm going to say this. I think we need to clarify if indeed, because Jennifer, you clearly stated rumor. So rumor doesn't suggest that there's a factual situation that we are 201U and we're known for paying late bills. So that we need to dispel that, or either determine that we need to, as has been stated tonight, we need to tighten up some of the procedures. Jennifer said earlier, and I agree, we need to go back into the committee of the whole, if you will, and find whatever it is what do you call it, the pleasure of the board, if you will, because it seems like we're throwing out things where we may want to change it, where we had a procedure where people could do exactly what you're saying, and then on that particular watch, some of the newer board members may not be able to reflect on this, but then there was this issue of it's not transparent and we can't do quite what we want to do. So I would like us to go back, certainly, and define, if you will, with this board, what are you saying you actually want? I can't imagine wanting the day-to-day, whatever, the bills that are in transit. I certainly want to know that the bills, you guys do the work. We're saying as this board that we certainly don't want to have a bad reputation. If you don't pay me, you're not going to get a service from me. If I had to be one of your contractors, I'm either going to do business with you because I know that I have a 30, 60, 90-day procedure. And a lot of people don't do businesses with school districts for that very reason. But if you do business with us, these are the parameters. And if we, because it seems like we're looking at kind of having some sort of special practice in place for smaller or local businesses. And I would like to see it certainly be consistent, because whether they're smaller local business or not, this is still a municipality, a business. And how do we don't do one thing for one organization, one pizza company, one this or that. Where are we going to be consistent and not say, oh, it's just this or oh, it's just that? Do we have and can we find a way to get a consistent process where we pay bills? And to Janine's point, if it is a small amount, we have something in place that is not going to cause a bunch of kids in a classroom not to get the pizza. It's what, Tuesday, by Friday, it's not that big of a deal. You have something in place to make sure we have a pizza or whatever else it is that we buy here that's not going to go too far out of our general process. I think we should stay with process and procedure, because I think we're going to be flipping again and saying, oh no, we're not, I don't think, Jennifer, just so you know, 4 or 5 years ago, what you're looking at wasn't as neat as it is. And imagine here we are now and we're still not necessarily completely happy. So I think we need to come to some balance about what it is we really, really want. And that's going to be beneficial, not just to the businesses, but to us collectively as a whole.
So I believe we've heard from a few board members that we do want to see our procedures tightened. The board expects our bills to be paid in a timely fashion. And we would like brought to the committee of the whole meeting what you all plan to make sure that these procedures are tightened, and one that, procedures that we would agree with. Don't want to get into the day-to-day. That's you all's job to figure it out. We're just telling you the expectation. And my colleagues, are we agreeing on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I just want to add to that, to dispel the perception of us being late and this rumor thing. The only way we're going to do that is to be able to see a list of at least a one-time shot of pending bills and say, folks, here's what was submitted to us and here's when they got paid. And these are what's pending. And if it's something that's pending for 60, 90 days, then there's some validity to what they're saying. If it's not, it's in black and white, we can show it to them, because I don't think by us saying, well, you're wrong, that's just going to continue the argument without some kind of a proof basis.
Well, I think we need to be careful too, as board members. We are always going to be approached by members of the public who say this or that. I don't want us to get in the habit of running back to administration and saying, show me proof, show me proof, show me proof. If we trust that we have directed our administration to establish procedures and it's brought back to us that we agree and we're seeing on a regular basis, because it's a part of our regular board packet, what's being paid, that's what we can vouch for. Anything else, if you're hearing any type of accusations of whatever, something's not being paid or this isn't being handled a certain way, again, bring it back to administration. It's their job to handle the situation. I just want us to remember what our role is as board members. We're given a directive. I saw the superintendent writing. So it's expected that this is the information that will be brought back to the Board of Education at the committee of the whole meeting.
In February, we will have something for you that goes over it. We will find a way to make sure that you understand all of our processes and how it goes, so that if there's somebody out there saying this didn't happen or this didn't happen, you'll be able to say, would you please call this person, and they will be able to assist you. Because so many times we get information, and we chase it down, and whether it's just not true or they forgot to do something. We're happy to help, but we need somebody to, where they need their assistance.
So just so I'm clear on what we're looking for with Dr. Hall, you're asking for us, at the committee of the whole, for them to bring a plan to us of their procedure of how they're going to present this to us, the
I
paid
think
bills?
the concerns that were brought up, how are we ensuring that bills are being paid in a timely fashion? How are we addressing the issues with our principals being given credit cards? And what are the procedures for that? The expectations with the usage of the credit cards? And how are we dealing with individual accounts for our schools or clubs or teams? And what is the procedure for that? If you're a club sponsor or a coach, are they getting access to whatever monies are in their funds? Is that being done without having to jump through hoops? I just remember, just over the years, just hearing, well, this isn't, getting paid, or we haven't had access. This was even before this administration, like Mrs. Sanders says, it really was worse before. But did I capture that? Is there anything else?
Yes, you captured everything except that I think I agree with Mr. Teray in this, when he stated, I think I'm hoping you were trying to say that you kind of wanted a recap or at a glance for one time. So I'm saying I'm not looking to see every month. We have enough to read here, certainly. So if, in layman's terms, if you will, you have a stack of these bills, let's just say, kind of dummy up. So here, for example, we got a bill in from some club XYZ. They presented the bill on such and such date, and look how it goes in the chain of command in the purchase level. And I know that, for example, I think we're going to find that when you show us, first of all, I forget what it was, about two years ago or something, we haven't gotten paid. The district, it was coming to us, the district hasn't paid us and we need to pay XYZ. Turns out they were sending it, was it something with a field trip or something, I can't remember, but whatever it was, it went from 100 hands, as if people don't even know the standard protocol. So when you say delayed, at that point, whose fault was it? I think, are we sure that people know process and procedure on how to get a bill paid? Because it could very well be you. You don't know that you have to take at least 48 hours or 72 hours in advance for you guys to write checks. Like, I would know if we needed something now that you only write checks, what, twice a week?
Once a week.
Okay, so
and only under
so 5 minutes,
certain
let's just say you
circumstances.
make them on Tuesday. If we missed it on Tuesday, we're probably gonna have to use your credit card.
I'm confident that all of our principals are aware of that process. Now, if they have division leaders or staff members, I can't speak to their level of knowledge.
Or the staff member doesn't get it to the principal, it is delayed at this point, correct?
It will be delayed.
So
And
that's
So
why we need
you all
to.
don't go over the procedures?
I'm sorry?
You don't go over procedures like at the beginning of the year? Is that protocol?
The principals, yeah.
Oh, so
And
then
they,
it's
and then they
task the
communicate.
principals
Yes,
to
and I know that
express.
And the accounting coordinator does a training with the secretaries every year, at the beginning of the year regarding purchasing, just kind of going over business office procedures as a whole. But every coach, no, we don't sit down with the coaches and go through process. We
Whose
sit down with the
responsibility is
athletic
that?
director. We sit down with the athletic director and the principal of the high school, and they are well-versed on the process, and we review that with them on an annual basis. But
And it's
to Mr.
more than the high school, you have coaches at the middle school, you have
Yes.
sponsors at the elementary.
And that would be the principal's responsibility. But to Mr. Teray's point, the only way for me to provide you with a list of bills in process would be to contact every school and have them send me the hard copies, because they're not in the system until they're in my office. So that is more of a project than I think.
I don't think we're looking to make it taxing.
Let me make this simple. You know, I don't want to confuse anybody or make it sound like I'm looking for, you know, a stack of, you know, I would just like to see a report of 60-day, 90-day, 120-day, and over bills that are pending. That's all. Just 60, anything 60, 90, or 120 or more. A list of those pending, and I'm sure you can filter out the things like the milk that are recurring bills. I'm talking about one-time bill from Joe the plumber or wherever we're getting the bill from, and it's for, you know, it's pending more than, you know, up to 60 days. I'm not concerned about something over 60 days. It concerns me, you know, and I don't know, you know, where Mr. Brown's getting the 90-day thing. When I had a control point and I had a credit card in the federal government, I did what they call reconcile every month. I reconciled all my bills. I'm sure you guys know a lot more about it than I do. You're professionals in it. We reconciled. Everything was done on a monthly basis. And we didn't have issues. You know, the bills went out, and if they didn't, I went over to finance and I said, what's going on? I reconciled my bills. You know, I'm the chief of whatever service. At the time, I was chief of housekeeping service, and I said, I need to get these bills paid, you know. They're waiting for it. So, you know, that's all I'm asking is a one-time shot of 60, 90, and 120 or more day bills that are pending. And then some kind of an explanation of why we haven't been paid at this point in time.
But Mr. Teray, we don't hold them. We pay the bills that we have each month. So I don't have a list of bills that are over 60 days. If they've come into the business office this month, we pay them next month. So they might be 60 days pending because there's something sitting on somebody's desk at the high school that I don't know about. But if they've come into my office and they've come within the last month, we've paid it.
So there would not be such.
Right. Correct. Okay. I don't have a 60-day aging.
And we don't want you to try to start figuring out how to create that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just, real quick, I think we kind of start operating somewhat on the dance floor here. I think we missed some steps, and I don't think we deflected the concerns of the taxpayer out there to the administrators like we ought to. I think we have been spending the last half hour or so talking about this issue when that person who had the concern out there in the public could have probably got an answer from Dr. Williams' office or Dr. Cunningham's office. And you could have given us that response, put it in the FYI or what. But I think we spent a half hour of talking about some things that could have been deflected by you guys.
And
That's
Mr.
my
Brown,
opinion.
that's what my second part of this was when we were saying if we get a constituent or somebody contacting us directly saying, my child came home and heard this at school, or we're not paying, what did she bring up, Athletico or Prairie State or whatever, are we saying then that we should be contacting the administration, or are we telling them the constituent should start calling Dr. Williams or Dr. Cunningham? That's where
I think we
I
should.
want to get that clear too,
Yeah,
because,
I think we should
if she's getting this said to her,
Sure.
then we need to make policy, procedure, something on how we also want to handle those, because I mean, those could be a valid complaint. If I hear that and my child is involved in whatever it is, they're saying they're not going to get their uniform, or they're not going to be able to go to pre-state, or they're not going to get food from Waltz again, I'm going to be a concerned parent. So do I have that parent start calling them, or what? That's what I'm saying to
I
the
think
legislators
personally,
there.
that's the first step, you know, on a matter, unless it's just such a matter that it needs to come directly to the board members. But if a parent comes up and say, you know, come to us and say, we got a concern with, I'm hearing rumors about billing or whatever, why don't you talk to Dr. Williams, the business manager? And if you're not getting any leeway from her, give me a call back or whatever. Talk to Nate or Dr. Cunningham about it. Then we get into conversations if we don't get any results from our superintendent. And a lot of this that we're talking about, I believe this should have been hashed out in the committee
should
as
have
a
been
whole.
what?
Hashed out.
Oh,
Talk
okay,
about that, you know, an environment like the community as a whole. We hashed it out, we talked about it, then we come out here. If it's a policy that needs to be approved, we approve the policy.
Right, that's why I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
out where we're standing on all this.
I think that what I'll ask you guys to do is what most of you guys have been doing. And I had one today where a parent has said that I called such and such board member, and they said that to get back to these people, and if they haven't gotten back to them by such and such date, I would contact the board member again. That way, you know, first of all, that they contacted us, and if they haven't, they'll get back to you. Now, sometimes things happen, and then by the time they get back to you, you call me, and we'll get it straight. You know, funnel them to us so we can fix their issues, and that's what we're after.
Uniform because the bill hasn't been paid. We just know that.
Follow the chain of command.
Follow the.
But why not
follow the
say
chain of
follow the
command.
chain, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they're not getting any help, because the first place you go is to the athletic director. Second place would be to the principal. Yes, just ask them. Yes. I mean, we want them to go through the chain of command so that they can, but if they're not getting assistance, sooner or later it'll get to me, and I'll be happy to help. But we want to give the principals, the athletic directors, and the department chairs an opportunity to do their job too. Because many times it's a whole lot easier for somebody to call the superintendent, even though they haven't contacted the people in the state.
Right. And board member Galbert, and again, it's not, in my opinion, a go, no go. If we have the answers as a board member, I think we can disseminate that answer to that constituent. But if it's something that, hey, that our superintendent or business manager or administrator or principal, whatever, has the answer to change of command, that's the way it ought to go.
Okay. Thank you. All righty. Secretary, please call the roll.
I have a question. Is it still the consent agenda, believe it or not, right? So, Terry, just for clarification, you have me down last month as being absent, and you usually put, like, did I miss it? Just help me. Where you would put where we arrived at some point? I did get here, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I looked back on. I'm not sure.
It is right. Oh, jeez.
Okay, yes, I do. Thank you. That was it. Okay. I had to think.
Please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Galbraith? Aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown? Aye. Mr. Toure?
Aye.
And Secretary's aye. Dr. Hall?
Aye, thank you. Motion carries. I'd like to read donations. Principal Brian Main would like to thank Mr. Timothy Conley for volunteering his time at the school during physical education classes. I believe he's a fireman, and he talked to the students about staying physically fit. And I received a hard copy of from Dr. Cunningham, thanking Overflowing Well Ministries for supporting the community with the outreach events of handing out food, turkeys, toys, books, toiletries, and clothing. Okay, next we have our action reports. May I have a motion to approve? Here we go. The employment of certified staff, the reassignment of certified staff, the leave of absence for certified staff, the return from leave of absence for certified staff, the intent to retire from certified staff, the resignation of certified staff, the dismissal of certified staff, the employment of educational support staff, the reassignment of educational support staff, the leave of absence for educational support staff, the return from leave of absence of educational support staff, the intent to retire of educational support staff, the resignation of educational support staff, and the dismissal of educational support staff. I know we do not actually have all of those categories on here, but I guess I've covered. Oh, I know, okay.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Galbraith.
Second.
Go ahead.
Second by Mr. Anderson.
Oh, Terry.
All right, I'll second it.
Mr. Teray, second by Mr. Teray.
Third.
Mr. Neal.
Thank you. Our personnel report reads as follows. Certified staff leave of absence for Laura Fitzpatrick. Certified staff return from leave of absence, Christine Lawson and Samantha Johnson. Educational support staff reassignments, Stuart Bree and Kathleen Lynch. And educational support staff resignations for Daryl Herbert, Diamond Reed Washington, and Jonina Winder. And that is our personnel report.
Okay. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
And Secretary's aye. Dr. Hall?
Aye, thank you. Motion carries. Any old business?
I have old business. We've been working on the compensation for our non-union members, and we still have some information that the board needs to receive. And what I'd like to do is to have a special meeting to be able to approve that once the board understands and once the board's ready to move forward. I have a suggestion that I'll, two suggested dates, the 24th, the 23rd or the 24th of January to have a special meeting. And I will have Terry call to see if we have enough people.
Do me a favor.
Yes.
Can you impress upon us why is something that can't be done? Because you guys, I'm sorry, but just throwing out a special meeting. Why can't you do it why can't it wait till the next month and give me some, I don't want to come to a special meeting.
I was going to ask the same question.
Well, I would assume the sooner we approve it, the sooner it takes effect.
It is the sooner it approves.
And I wasn't trying to be flip. Truly, what I'm saying to you is, you know, we commit to the committee of the whole, we commit to the general board meeting. And so what you do whenever, I'm just saying for future, whenever you, in my opinion, have a need for a special meeting, I mean, we need to know, you know, why you can't fit it in somewhere else, because it can be a hardship. And you need our buy-in and input and our votes. So I'm just asking you if you would be obviously cognizant. This seems like this is some dire need for us to get this accomplished, but if it's not, I've seen where we've done, we can't vote at the committee of the whole.
Unless we create a special meeting before, and then there's two meetings on the same night.
And I'm just asking, because if it's just a vote, I mean, this separate day, versus, I mean, you have definitely done that. So is that not an option?
Well, we've worked very hard at trying to do that and have your time be well spent in 2 meetings. We've worked on that. The only reason that we came and I suggested a special meeting is our non-union salaries. We've been working on this for quite a while. We've taken care of CMEA. We've taken care of ACME. And of course, our non-union people are kind of looking over our shoulders and what about us? And we're very close to making sure we have a proper understanding. And I wanted to make sure we had all of that for everyone before we move forward. But we're not quite there. And I figured we would be there by the 23rd or the 21st, and 24th. And if we could be there and I could get our members there and they were ready to move forward on this, I'd like to be able to do it. The longer we hold our people back, the more concerns that you guys are going to get.
And let me just add a bit of clarification how I see it. I believe, and Terry, you correct me if I'm wrong, but Dr. Hall, I believe we can invoke upon a vote at the committee as a whole if it was put as an action item with a quorum. That's just.
No, we have to have a separate.
We have to have,
Well,
you can have 2 meetings.
remember we did it before, but it was the same night, but it was technically 2 separate meetings. So you would have your special board meeting from 6 to 6:30 to just approve that. Then you would close that meeting out, adjourn it. Then we would open up our committee of the whole meeting. So we can do it the same night. I think he's just asking for it sooner.
I was just
At
asking
this
for a special
point.
meeting to try to get us
But
done
I'm
early.
just asking
So Mrs. Sanders has expressed her concern, Mrs. Gasparo. So I just need to hear from the Board of Education. Are we willing to do a special board meeting, or would we like to wait till the committee of the whole meeting to do
I
the?
concur with Mrs. Sanders. I think that we do give a lot of our time, a lot of our effort. I understand this is something that's being worked on, but we still have information. And unfortunately, you know, you get information one day doesn't mean we can all study it and divulge it and ask our questions in 24 hours. We need some time to read it over, get it. So I'm with Mrs. Sanders. If we could do it as a special meeting before the committee of the whole, I'd feel much better about having time to make sure that everybody involved has gotten what is necessary to make this the right move for everyone.
Okay, Mr. Teray, Mr. Anderson.
Well, I would like to see option A, B, C or something like that. I know what you presented to us the other day, but, you know, that's a very narrow focus. I would like to see, here's option A, here's option B, here's option C, and what.
We actually did that. That was the first discussion. This was probably the third, I think.
It is the 3rd iteration.
Well, you know, it's still not enough information for me to make a decision on this. And, you know, it's like, take this or nothing, you know, and I don't, you know, where's the compromise here? Where are we coming from?
But no, so you're going to have now an extended amount of time to give you whatever it is, even if you have more questions that you have to ask. At this point, what was on the table is, come on, let's have a meeting the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, which is pretty much next week. You're saying you're still out on the limb. I'm unsure. You know, I've got some more questions. If it's pushed off to the committee of the whole, there's almost 2 weeks and then some to continue to ask whatever continuing questions that you have. I mean, at some point, you know, I mean, as with all of us, we get the information and I mean, if it's not enough information for me, I'm not going to vote for it. It's simple for me.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I agree that I think there's still some outstanding questions about this issue and requests from my board colleagues for more information out on the table that's been promised. And yeah, and I think there's still a lot of questions about the magnitude and the timing of this whole salary plan. So my bottom line is, the more, you know, I think we need time to carefully consider it and get all the information we need to be comfortable voting on.
Okay, and let me get clarity, because again, the question was about whether we're doing a special board meeting separate from the committee of the whole. Now the question or the concern has been raised on whether we have enough information. We want options, multiple options. So to my recollection, we were presented with multiple options. We gave feedback, it came back again. We gave feedback, and that this is now what is being proposed and asked for the board to be voted on. So is it the pleasure of the board to now send administration back to point A? I'm not understanding
Well,
that.
in the committee of the whole,
Yeah, I wasn't
there were questions. And so we did ask.
Questions answered from the committee of the whole meeting.
I'm sorry.
So we just want the questions answered from the committee of the whole.
I thought we were going to get those.
We did get those, and then we got a few more questions that basically came from the original iteration we had, because when we sent the answers to the questions, someone wanted some more data, and I said I would get that to them, and we're working on that now.
So then the question then must be we need to decide as a whole, because I mean, we can send you some questions every day. So is the deadline at the committee of the whole, I'm not picking on you, Mike, but if Mike has not exhausted, received the answers, to his satisfaction, he still has the option. His voice is, I'm going to vote no, voted no, because I don't have enough information, and I'm tired of asking you or any superintendent for the information, because I feel like, as anybody, give me the information. I mean, and give it to me so I can make a decision. If you don't, this is what you want me to have, and it's not enough, no. We
need to make this right. I think this is the administrator. We need to make this right. I believe this is the third or fourth crack that the administrators are coming to us. And I believe dearly that we need to put some fire behind the board to, just like we were trying to do for teachers and the unions and so on and so forth. Non-union personnel need to get paid, and they're waiting just like everyone else did. So in my opinion, I think there's a lot of uncertainties out there. We asked at the last committee as a whole to bring back some more information. I have not yet seen that information.
It was sent to you, and then there was additional request.
Trying to jam it down us, not intentionally, but, and I think we need to act appropriately and look at this information. I think it should come back to the committee as a whole, and committee as a whole, one last time, and then vote at our regular board meeting, the next one in February.
Last week at our committee, the whole meeting was the first time that we'd seen numbers with a recommendation of an 85%.
right.
That was the first time we saw that.
So, yeah, but we saw numbers.
But we gave you an original numbers with the 100%.
Correct.
Gonna have.
But the recommendation came through Tuesday to go 85% with numbers, and then, okay.
I mean,
you say it's the third time, I'm like, what am I missing?
No, I was saying when it was originally brought, we gave feedback.
Right.
No. I just wanted to make it clear that we have had discussions, we have gone through a process, and to my understanding, this is, as a result of those discussions, this is what is being presented as what is desired. That was my understanding.
That was our recommendation. Yes, it was.
Okay. So now we need to clarify, because now Mr. Brown has given not voting at the committee of the whole, but actually voting at the regular board meeting.
I would just like to, what I'm trying to get at here is I don't want to spend 3.5 hours at the committee of the whole going over this stuff. I would like to see, throw out a number of 85%, now throw out a couple other numbers, and we can discuss it. If we're going to you're going to sit on 85%, that is not options as far as I'm concerned. It's, this is what we want. You know, we didn't negotiate with the teachers union or Acme with, here's the number, and if you don't, you know, you want this or you don't want it. You approach them with options, and I think we need to be approached with number options. And Jennifer had sent an email. I don't know if everybody's got to read it, but, you know, no offense, but some of the people in these positions were put in these positions for political reasons, okay, in the past, all right? And, you know, do they have the qualifications for what they're doing? You know, I think that's the question that Mrs. Gasparro asked. Are they qualified? What does a person with the same qualifications on the outside get? You know, and I don't have any answers to any of these questions, you know?
Just for clarification, I wasn't suggesting that anybody wasn't qualified. I just said if we're going to give them an increase just for an increase sake, to bring them to market, to make sure that they met the minimum qualifications for the job. That's.
And of course, we do, and it's important that you understand when we said market, we weren't talking about everyone. This was the educational market, and it was based on the South Suburban survey, educational survey. What our job is as an administrative team is to make recommendations to you guys, not necessarily to come in and say, what do you guys want? And what I'm taking every piece of input that we can to come up with the best recommendation that we can. And the best recommendation that we thought we had, which would be thumbs up or thumbs down from the Board of Education, was 85%. Now with that 85%, I had questions that, you know, answer those questions. I got a few more. If there are others, we're happy to answer them. But our recommendation as an administrative team was this. Now, if there's something you can't vote for or you don't agree to vote for, of course. Mr. Sanders has told us that straight up. I don't need information. I'm not going to vote for it. We want to make sure you have everything you need to make an educated vote. I'm sorry.
Well, Superintendent, you did bring the 85%. And there was quite a few concerns and questions that were asked during that meeting, committee of a whole. And I personally asked questions and more documentation on how the 600,000 thereabout was going to affect the budget. I asked what percentage of the 85% was it driving a particular individual salary up? Was it going to be 95% that was going to bring up a particular person's salary up? I said, we need to be transparent and see that. You know, because it could be warranted that that person does get a 95, 105, because that 85% is just one number. That's a general average number, right? 85%. So some person could get 8%, correct? Some person could get 80%. Some person could get 105%. So we want to be able to speak intelligently that if that person get 85% or whatever, or 100%, we can talk about it. So
Okay.
those are the things we're supposed to bring up.
Okay.
So if we can bring that information, give it to us, and I agree with Board Member Toure, bring it to us before the next committee as a whole, so we don't be there 3 hours talking about it. We have the information, we can dissect it, we on an individual basis can communicate with you our concerns, and then we can hash all of that stuff out at the committee as a whole.
So I believe you can see there still needs to be some discussion on it. It's been requested that we bring additional options and explaining why and how much, numbers, all of that. Is that the consent?
Yeah, I think I would agree. I agree with Mr. Brown wholeheartedly on this one, that if Secretary A is making $40,000 and her contemporary across the board is making $41,000, and then IT person B is making $70,000 and his contemporary is making $90,000, then to bring him to 85% is a whole lot more money than to bring that secretary up. So I need to see them. We need to see those kind of numbers and see if they're realistic. That's what you're talking about, Mr. Brown, right?
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Is that the consent of the board? Is that the
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Dr. Hall, can I remind you just for our sake, in the past, we already know that we were, had an issue. So I'm glad that it's being brought up because I certainly do not wish to say yay on this unilateral,
Yes,
anything.
yes,
And you
we-
know
we
what?
talked
That's the problem, Dr. Cunningham, to be honest with you. The last time this was a scenario, you did. You had somebody to get a 50% raise and you had another person that got nothing. And of course, I'm just recollecting the phone calls, the emails, as if somehow the board, once we send you guys back with 85% unilaterally, for you to do what? I can't imagine wanting to hear that one secretary hypothetically say, and God forbid if it was Terry, oh, they gave her 50% because she's the board secretary and they just like her. It is either right and consistently spread out amongst, if we're going to give away money, or I shouldn't say give away money, but if we're going to give money, at least everybody should be consistently compensated. I'm not going into any political nepotism, whatever it is. I'm talking about where we can sleep and say it has been fairly divvied out and no one individual, because we had it. We've already been through this. Anybody who's sat on here at least for 4 years should remember we were dinged on that. Bunch of folks angry, upset, as if we knew that they were being overlooked. And you got people sitting in these offices, oh, she got more than me, and nobody can keep their mouth shut. You think I would tell somebody what I got as a raise? Probably not, but people do it. So if that's going to be the case, we should be as a prize, as much a prize. I don't want to give you an 85% check. I would give you $100,000 to right the wrong if that is the case. But how are you going to spend the money? And that is a fair question to ask. I don't think we're questioning your integrity as far as you guys and this group of employees needing to be brought to some capacity of, to right the wrong. I mean, you said that we're so far below the totem pole. I don't doubt that. I think we should fix that. But I do have to say, even with what I read in Jennifer's email earlier, if we don't have it, I want you to make sure that we have it. I want you to make sure that we don't go into a deficit doing it. Well, whatever. I mean, but tell us so we know we can chew it up and even also just communicate that to people. Because as soon as we don't give the money out, and let's be clear, and we all have to receive that. They gave teachers theirs. Nobody thinks that non-union employees are important. How dare you guys? So we'll have to answer that. But I'd like to be able to say to somebody, we're not saying we're not going to pay you, but we're going to do 50% this year, whatever that was, you said 20%, and so on and so forth. I mean, it makes no sense to spend haphazardly if we don't know for a fact. And I know that things are not, there's no guarantee. But I'm just saying, the process, Dr. Hall, you're asking us overall.
It just sounds like we need to have the conversation at the committee of the whole. You give them a directive. Are you clear on?
I am clear on the
what it's in?
directive.
Okay, thank you.
And just please, Dr. Cunningham, give us the information well ahead of time of the committee of the whole. Okay. Just not too easy for or whatever, you just continue to disseminate the information to it as it comes your way.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
seek to have that next week, please.
Can I?
Yes.
But is there still going to be a meeting, a special meeting?
No, it's not. We
said no.
clarified that this will be another conversation at the committee of the whole meeting.
I just would like to add one thing, and that is that for any of the public that's listening, to make sure that we keep throwing out this 85%. I want to make sure everybody understands that nobody's getting an 85% raise. It's the 85% of the difference between their current salary and the market. So I know, but anybody that's listening or anything is going to be thinking that we're throwing around 85% raises, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands that is not what's.
It could happen.
Well, but
Because-
the 85% is not meaning everybody is getting an 85% increase.
Because it has been assessed by our administration that many of our certs are not at market value. Just being clear on it, okay? All right. Thank
Mr.
you.
Neal,
So
can
you
I
have the
ask one
direct
question of
for
you?
that.
I'd like a little bit of input out of Mr. Neal, just to try to make sure that I'm understanding this, because say you have Secretary 1 position, and there's 3 people in there, and one makes 33,000, one makes 35,000, one makes 37,000. And we find out that we want to, 85% of the median is, market value is 42,000. If they all are in that Secretary 1 and they all have the same everything, one of those people is going to get more than the other 2. Correct? I mean, the 35,000 has to be been brought to the 43 if that's what that price is, right?
Yes.
So the 35, the one who's making the least is going to get the most. There's no way to not do that, correct? Am I understanding that correctly? Right, but that's what I'm saying. So some people will get an 8% and some people could get 100% if they're way far off the scale, depending on when they were hired.
And
Am I
that's going to
correct? Am I
happen
getting
if
that
you're
correct?
trying to right the wrong. It's going to happen.
Right.
Because
So-
that person who's been making way less has, for whatever amount of time, been going without. And this
Exactly.
person has been doing it. So it's going to happen
There's no
that
way to
way.
change that.
That's the goal, to get people to a certain place.
So
It's
those
gonna happen.
percentages are going to differ. One person may get 8% and one may get 75% to bring
And
them
one
up
might get 10.
to that level. But so I just want to make sure that that's perfectly clear too, is that they're not all going to get $5,000, say. Some may get, it's going to be a different amount many times.
Correct.
Does this have to do with the salary schedule that I emailed you about that said it wasn't attached? The list, in that report, there was supposed to be a schedule. It said the schedule's attached, and I think I questioned that. And so I
Yes,
think
and we
that
said
would
that would
clarify
have
some
some-
information.
So it goes by position, and it kind of tells you the low spot and the high spot. And that will be in your hands shortly. Yes, you had it for the original money that we came in, but we didn't put it in for the 85% because we hadn't made the changes. We will have that to you.
And my final thought on it is we as a board are just going to have to decide what the goal here is. Is the goal to try to get our employees who are not a part of union to market value or to a certain point towards market value? Or are we just wanting to give everybody the same increase? That's 2 different things. We can say, okay, everybody gets 3% or whatever it is. Or we can say, we want to make sure that everybody is at a certain point. That's the decision we have to make. If we take the approach of getting everybody to a certain point, you are going to have a variation in percentages. And that can be perceived as unfair, but it's not unfair if our goal is to be fair and get people to where they should be. So if it is asked in the public, we're educated enough to say, this is the reason why it appears that way, but this is what was behind that. So we have to decide as a board, what is our goal? If the goal is to just give everybody the same percentage, then we need to say that. If it's to move towards market value, we need to understand what that process looks like, and we need to say that.
I'm going to take a 5-minute adjourn recess. 5-minute recess, please. Make note, Terry. I'd like to bring the meeting back to order. Out of recess. No, there's no more old business, no new business. I would like a motion, no, there's no closed session. Like a motion to adjourn. Second. Yes, Darrell, second by Board Member Sanders. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any nays? Meeting adjourned.